It's time for today's travel and cruise industry news. With the latest from travel and cruises around the world, here's your host, Chillie Falls.
Hey, good morning and welcome to the Travel and Cruise Industry Podcast. On this, the 17th day of April 2025, brought to you by Will U.S., the owner of Scoot Around, and by Chillie's Cruises. This is a special broadcast of sorts. It's a makeup for yesterday. It is also a makeup at least for one of the several shows that I've missed lately because of my travels. But before we get started, folks, I just stuck a comment in if to see if the audio is okay. So let me jump over in the chat room real quick and see if anybody's put a comment in. I don't. Bonnie says I don't hear anything. I can hear you now. See you and hear you. Very good. I asked that because the signal here was a little wonky as we were landing today, and I wanted to make sure that this was going to actually be live. So anyway, I'm in Ibiza, Spain. Absolutely gorgeous place. I have a. Let me see if I can do that real quickly. This was sailing in this morning, and I mean it was just absolutely. The seas were nice and calm. It's just a lovely sail in, I thought. I went off the ship for a while, um, just here around the port area, and there's basically nothing. It's a nice terminal, but I went up probably close to a mile down the Malecon, and then up the way toward the lighthouse, right up to the base of the lighthouse. But I mean, there was nothing. You have to pretty much catch a transfer to get down into town to do anything in Ibiza. But the area itself, the terminal is gorgeous, very wheelchair accessible. There's plenty of ramps. Uh, you know, it was easy rolling for me. Even where there's cobblestones, they have about a 4 foot wide smooth path. Now I don't know if that's primarily for bicycles, but I used it, so it kept me from juggling my teeth out. So got on a breakaway yesterday. First of all, the flight. You know how much I hate flying. The flight, at first, I thought we were going to have a problem with me even getting on the airplane. It seems that Air Italia has some rules and regulations about having my chair pre-registered with some organization that approves the chair to fly. It's supposed to be done weeks in advance, only we had no information on that pre-going. And then after that, when we finally got over that hurdle and I proved all the specs and everything on the chair to them, which when I'm under pressure, I don't do very well. But coming up with the specs on the chair, I finally got that. And we had four ladies working on this and one guy with Air Italia. Then they saw my oxygen unit and they raised objection with that. And I had to prove the information on the battery for the portable oxygen unit. They wanted me to get them a statement from my doctor that says it's okay for me to turn it off if I don't need it. Now, that was at 7 o'clock uh, Spain time, or Rome time, Italy time, which would have been 1 a.m. in the morning. Yeah, where am I going to get a statement from a doctor? I mean, that was just ridiculous. But anyway, finally we got through all that, and I got on the plane. We sat in first class, but thank to Hot Air Tom for that. But it wasn't any different. The only thing that made it first class uh, was there was the third seat didn't have anybody in it, so there was just Hot Air Tom sat at the window and then an open seat, and me at the aisle seat. That's what made it first class, and we were in row 3. There was no difference for 6 rows or 7 rows, and then it started the normal fill it up 3, 3, 3, 3, all the way back. It was a nice flight, nice meal. A steward and the stewardess assigned to that area were extremely attentive to me. A little problem when we got into Barcelona. They finally got the chair out of luggage or wherever they put it. I'm still Hot Air Tom and I are still sitting in the plane waiting, and they brought it up, and it wouldn't fit in the door. So, and in the door to get into the area that leads up to the door of the plane. So Tom went out and said, "Listen, can I help you guys with this? I know the chair." And I said, "Yeah, sure." So, he's taken the thing apart before. So he just pulled the seat out and set it aside and then helped them get it angled and put it in, and it got in. He put the seat back in it. And finally, I was able to get out of the plane. The transfer to the port, we found a winner with that one. Wheelchair accessible taxi, good guy. So if anybody needs one in Rome, we got a reference for you. So that was great. Got on the breakaway. It was not the smoothest that we've been through, but not too terribly bad. Got on the breakaway. And of course, we go about our business like we always have. We went for the muster station. We got that done first thing. Went to the room and dropped stuff off. Even though they weren't ready for that, we can get by with that. Got something to eat. And then we found out, or discovered, that they've taken hand sanitizer out. It's not around anymore. Well, Tom really went off. It bothered me, but Tom really, he went off on the hostess at Cagney's last night. And I said, "Tom, that's not the right person to bitch at." I happened to see the maitre d' later. Now, that's the right person to talk to him about. So I complained about no hand sanitizer. And how, especially at this point in time, when they've done away with the health inspections for cruise ships, and that's going to lead to cruise ships getting lax in their cleanliness and making it even worse. And all these outbreaks of salmonella and listeria and things that I'd never heard of, not to mention COVID and flu A and all the usual gastrointestinal things you hear about. I mean, it seems like there's something about that every day, and they're taking hand sanitizer out. I mean, admittedly, washing hands is better than hand sanitizer. I admit that. But at least you had people were using the hand sanitizer and they don't use washing their hands. I see them constantly in the bathroom leaving without washing their hands. Just saying. So we were disappointed with that. Other than that, the room is fantastic. Our room guy's great. This may be the largest room I've ever been in. Oh, they're outside cleaning windows now. That's cool. He's a guys on a, thing. We're on the 12th deck. So he's going by on a mechanical jobby and going to wash our windows if you hear something in the background. All right, so I did this show at 10 a.m. for this reason. We're 6 hour time difference now, and we're going to be 6 hours this whole cruise until I get back to Barcelona, get on the plane, and head home. Of course, that day I am not looking forward to. However, what that does, if I have my show at normal 11 o'clock, that's 5 o'clock ship time. We normally go to dinner at 5:30. Why so early? Mainly because of my medication schedule. But so Hot Air Tom and Kenneth and Robin have gotten used to that schedule, and we kind of schedule around that. Not to mention the pre-scheduling of the specialty restaurants. Hot Air Tom usually schedules those at 5:30 for me. We had Cagney's at 5:30 last night. There's no way in the world I can do a show and process it and be done in time to go to dinner at 5:30. So I'm taking the extra hour. I'm going to do the shows. I thought about doing it just today, and then I said, hell no. I'll do the shows at 10 a.m. at home time for every day that I do them. Now, I could do some lives too, some, pick-up lives. I could do some. I'm going to probably do one of the deck tours after dinner this evening, because we're in port until something ridiculous like 11 o'clock. So there's not going to be a whole lot of people, including Hot Air Tom, who's on an 8-hour tour that left at 11:45 or something. So he's not going to be back for dinner tonight. But I'll probably do like a Facebook Live on one of my deck tours. The Breakaway is a little different than the other ships of this class, like we've been on. So the Joy, it's a little different than Joy. It's a little different than the ship that just went back and forth across the ocean on, that went into dry dock. So it's a little different. So yeah, it might be okay to try to hit the main decks on a couple little live pop-ups just to show you some of the differences. There's been some changes since I was on it in January of was that January of 23? I think was that vloggers cruise that I did. But anyway, so that's what's happened. Other than that, I'm feeling great. I know you guys were worried about me that one day. Oh, I was worried that day too. As it turned out, that was just a bad chemo day. In case some of you have forgotten, I do a $13,000 a month chemo drug at 4 a.m. every morning. And I have days where it just flat, excuse my French, it flat knocks me on my ass. Well, was that Friday? That was one of those days. I mean, I didn't get out of bed till 5 o'clock. And it wasn't that I was sleeping soundly. I couldn't move. I mean, that's one of those where you hope you die. One of those days. And that was one of them. I got up, got something to eat. Weak and shaky all night. But the next day I was back to normal. So that was just a chemo day. So those of you that worried, I appreciate the worry. But now, when we got on the ship yesterday, and the main reason I didn't do the show, I had a show ready for yesterday. my damn computer bag. Didn't get here until I got it at 7:30 last night. And the show was supposed to go off at 5 my time, ship's time. So while I was going to be doing the show, instead of that, I was eating a shrimp cocktail and a little lobster bisque soup that actually had lobster. I had a nice bit of lobster in it. Really good. I mean, it's always been really tasty, but usually it's devoid of lobster. It usually is. This had nice chunks of lobster in it. It was really good. And I had prime rib last night, and no dessert. I was too much food. I can't eat that much anymore. I usually have the fillet there, and then I might cheat on dessert. But none of the four of us had dessert last night. So Robin was full. Kenneth, who can eat, he can out eat a horse. He didn't have dessert. Tom didn't have dessert. So anyway, I'm still living the life, folks, and having a great time. All right. There were a couple people that suggested and told me that they never send their electronics up. They always put the electronics in carry on. Well, that's great. I can't. I'm in a wheelchair and I don't have a carry on. I can't take a carry on. One hand has got to be constantly steering the thing and running the thing. Okay. And I just can't go through the hassle of dragging, tagging, pulling something along and running into people and running into things and getting my arm yanked off because it just doesn't work. So I sent it up with my luggage. I've never lost anything that way, and I know it's a possibility of losing it. Oh, it just happened to be that last night that was one of the last things coming up because the staging area was right in front of my room. And my guy was on the lookout for it. It was one of the last bags to come up. But I just can't do that. So I send it up with luggage. And I won't ask somebody to take that up for me. I can't do that. I mean, Hot Air Tom does so much crap for me anyway on these cruises. It's just ridiculous. I mean, stuff that normally I do myself. And hell yeah, it's a lot easier to get somebody to do it. But I mean, he's still carrying a 125-pound backpack on his person because he sets up a full office. So he carries that. I'm not going to ask him to carry my computer bag. No. And I can't do it in the wheelchair. So, just saying, I take the chance. I take the chance. And I wouldn't upset anybody in the suggestions that were made. They're great suggestions. If I could, I would, but I can't. All right. I'll be back with some news. I got to get the news going here this morning to get some catch up from the shows I've missed. After a quick break from one of our fine network sponsors. All right, so the first story this morning is about ICE. Tourists detained by ICE say they were treated like the worst criminal. From an article written by Trevor Hughes and Lauren Bilgren for the USA Today. A British backpacker, a Harvard researcher, a Canadian actress, an Australian mixed martial arts coach, dozens of international college students. The Trump administration's sweeping immigration and visa crackdown has begun ensnaring a class of people long accustomed to being welcomed with open arms into the United States. And those uncommon detainees are bringing new attention to the often harsh U.S. immigration and customs enforcement detention system, where people can be held without charge indefinitely, sometimes in shocking conditions, or abruptly removed from the country. This type of treatment has long been the case in ICE detention, but the people held by the government often didn't have the resources, the access, language, or middle-class expectations to denounce the conditions. Now, with President Trump's crackdown, native English speakers, people with PhDs, others that are getting the word out to a broader public about a system they describe as arbitrary and punishing, although ICE detention is not supposed to resemble prison. Like the other detained travelers, one of the people detained said he was trying to enter the U.S. with a visa and was handcuffed after customs officers identified a paperwork problem. Instead of being refused entry and put on a flight back home, the gentleman said he was taken to a chaotic federal detention center for 24 hours. President Trump campaigned on tough new immigration enforcement, particularly targeting violent offenders living illegally within the United States. But the crackdown has swept in everyday foreign travelers and tourists too, resulting in detention for infractions that previously have gone severe or a fine. I believe in respecting the rules, but putting someone in federal prison over a missing detail in a visa application, that's awful. Now I'm back in Australia, the gentleman said. I'll speak with my lawyers. Something has to be done the way I was treated. Hope this never happens to anybody else. The USA Today asked ICE whether foreign travelers should expect to be detained on an infraction of customs or immigration law. The agency didn't respond to a request for comment regarding its detention practices. Because immigration and visa violations are civil, not criminal matter, ICE detention is supposed to be non-punitive according to the agency's own guidelines. But conditions vary widely in sprawling detention network overseen by ICE, which includes government-run and contracted facilities. Deb Flesch-Scheiker, a former ICE official who served under the Biden administration and the first Trump administration, said legally it is civil detention, not criminal detention. But by and large, people are treated like they're in jail or worse. Now that's from an official that was in both administrations. Obviously, things get worse when the system gets overburdened, when ICE contractors are overwhelmed and overworked. Things get worse, and they're worse now. We need to change the system. The system is clearly broken when you can have somebody yanked off the street, sent to a prison in another country with no chance to find out if they were guilty or not. It's assumed guilt. That's not the way our Constitution was written. Just to make things more troubling, the Trump administration recently eliminated two key oversight offices, the Office of Civil Rights and Civil Liberties and the Office of the Immigration Detention Ombudsman. Those were two areas that protected people that were detained and other things too. Wow. Seems like they're really stacking the deck. Springtime in Los Angeles has it all. Pleasant weather, fewer crowds, and plenty of exciting events and outdoor activities. Got a trip planned? We've extended our savings on scooter and wheelchair rentals in Anaheim, Los Angeles, and Disneyland until the end of May. Call Scootaround at 888-441-7575. Use SRN 11137 for the best rates. An island-wide blackout hit Puerto Rico yesterday as the largely Catholic residents of the U.S. territory prepared to celebrate the Easter weekend, a power company said. All hospitals on the island are operating on generators after the power went out at 12:38 p.m. Eastern Time. Veronica Fiorelli, acting governor and secretary of state for Puerto Rico, said at a news conference, all 1.4 million clients on the island were without power, Hugo Sorrentini, spokesman for Luma Energy, which oversees the transmission and distribution of power, told the Associated Press. The entire island is without power, he said. According to Lumen, if they can be believed, presence of vegetation on a transmission line between Cambalache and Manatee is the cause. Thousands of Puerto Ricans were fuming over the latest outage, which may last 72 hours before it's fully restored, with many renewing their calls that the government cancel the contract with Luma and Genera PR, which oversees generation of power on the island. I don't think we've heard the end of this story.
What's your name and where are you from?
Yahtzee from Wisconsin.
Wisconsin.
Wisconsin, Philippines.
Okay.
Cheers. Dogs, cheers, dogs.
Thank you.
The MSC Foundation celebrated the official opening of its new Marine Conservation Center at Ocean Key on Thursday, marking a key milestone in its commitment to coral conservation and maritime research in the Bahamas. The state-of-the-art facility is a base for biologists, scientists, students, and island visitors alike, featuring interactive pavilions, a lecture hall, a bio lab, and a land-based coral nursery housing 22 tanks. Nobody likes to be left behind when their loved ones go on a cruise without them. But calling in a bomb threat is not the correct response. Michigan local Joshua Lowe, however, is now paying for his crimes after doing just that. The 19-year-old has been found guilty of reporting a false bomb threat to Carnival Sunrise because he was mad that his girlfriend was sailing with her family while he was at home pet sitting. Lowe appeared in federal court in Kalamazoo, Michigan, where he was sentenced to 8 months in prison. Not a good move, my man, not a good move. American Airlines and AT&T, two iconic American brands built on a legacy of connecting customers to the people and places that matter the most, will take those connections to new heights, offering complimentary in-flight Wi-Fi across more than 2 million American flights per year beginning in January of 2026. With complimentary in-flight Wi-Fi available exclusively to members of the A Advantage loyalty program, American will offer free in-flight connectivity on more planes than any other domestic carrier, all sponsored by AT&T. Sorry, Mr. Musk, you lost. A young family had a frightening incident on last week while visiting Royal Caribbean's private island, the Bahamas. Perfect day at CocoCay. 2 Oasis-class ships were docked there, Oasis of the Seas and Symphony of the Seas, and a guest on board Oasis of the Seas witnessed a young child fall between Symphony of the Seas and the concrete pier. Symphony of the Seas departed Miami, that is, on Sunday, and the visit to CocoCay was the first port of call on the 7-night Eastern Caribbean itinerary. While the time of the incident was not disclosed, the ship was docked from approximately 7 to 4. Witnesses to the incident do clearly note that the child's mother was nearby and the child was quickly rescued. A cruiser aboard Oasis of the Seas, Henry Yeaney, was one such witness. There have been no details released of the incident, including whether or not the child was closely attended to by his parents, their age, or if the child sustained any injuries. Cruise Hive has reached out to Royal Caribbean for comment and further information, but has not yet heard back at the time of publication. This article will be updated if additional details are provided. Symphony of the Seas departed CocoCay on schedule, and there appears to be no delay in her itinerary.
Let's talk about Allianz Travel Insurance. That's what I use and have for years. Without travel insurance, you'll have to navigate every travel emergency on your own, whether it's that missing suitcase or a medical evacuation. With Allianz Travel Insurance, you have a dedicated team of travel and medical experts on your side. For more information, just give me a call, 434-258-9264, and we'll talk about an Allianz policy that fits your needs.
And folks, don't forget the annual policy from Allianz right now, $280. I've paid $225 for one cruise before for my policy. $280 for the annual policy. Doesn't matter how much you travel, where you travel, when you travel. Let's say you take one cruise a year and maybe a couple weekends that you get away. You go visit your children or grandchildren or mom or dad or anything. You're covered. $280. Not bad. Just give me a call. All right, guys. Where were we? Here we go. In the early hours preceding an anticipated Mediterranean voyage, MSC Cruises canceled a scheduled voyage on MSC Sinfonia due to a technical malfunction. The cancellation affected 1,000 passengers slated to board in Bari, Italy, last week on an 8-day round-trip itinerary. Meanwhile, guests already on board the challenge ship during a round-trip 7-night segment sailing from Istanbul were visiting Corfu for a 6-hour call as passengers in Bari were getting the notification. I'm on the cruise and we're not disembarking until Athens next Monday, shared one cruiser. We haven't heard anything as to why. Reports followed that MSC Sinfonia experienced a malfunction that was reducing the vessel's speed, requiring the vessel to travel at a limited speed with an escort from the Italian Coast Guard to Bari, where it is currently docked. The trouble forced the ship to miss its Athens call, as well as its April 15th and April 16th call in Turkey, where new passengers were also set to embark on new segments of the voyage. That's clearly what I call a symphony mess. A dream vacation turned into a costly nightmare for a British couple who flew more than 10,000 miles to sail on an Australian cruise. Despite having traveled with a valid passport and passing through numerous travel and immigration checkpoints without any problems, the couple was denied boarding at the Sydney Overseas Passenger Terminal, citing a damaged passport David Hornsby of Southampton and his wife were told they wouldn't be sailing a 14-night voyage from Sydney to Singapore on Cunard's Queen Elizabeth after all. We arrived at the cruise terminal, went to check in as usual, having already dropped our luggage off, and they looked at my passport and then called somebody over and then took it away, Hornsby told the local media outlet. My wife was cleared for boarding, but they said there was damage on my passport, which there wasn't. He continued saying the concern was over loose stitching on the center of the UK passport. After waiting several hours to have their baggage retrieved, the couple booked flights back to the UK from Sydney, which cost €700. Due to Cunard's cancellation policies, the Hornsbys are also out of pocket on the original cruise and flight costs. David has been appealing to Cunard in hopes of getting a refund, a replacement cruise, or some sort of compensation. Two Canadian passengers think that Royal Caribbean could have done more to prevent and mitigate the spread during a salmonella outbreak in September. Both women are now suing the cruise line for negligence and breach of duties. The voyage in question was the final Alaska cruise of the season on board Radiance of the Seas, in which 180 passengers and 3 crew members reported gastrointestinal symptoms that were later identified as salmonella. The 2 lawsuits, which were filed by Tierney Patterson and Nicole Singh with the British Columbia Supreme Court in March of 2025, seek restitution for financial damages and compensation for pain and suffering. A senior lawyer who works for the San Diego City Attorney's Office is getting slammed by the press for working remotely while cruising the world for 4 months. Jean Jordan, who was on the cruise, was given permission by her superiors at the San Diego City Attorney's Office to work remotely for that period of time. However, she is now receiving criticism from constituents of her boss for her decision not to work close to her office. I hope her boss has the wherewithal to tell those people it's none of their damn business.
Be on one of the first MSC ships to go to Alaska when we sail May 25th, 2026 on the MSC Poesia round trip from Seattle. 7 nights going to Ketchikan, Icy Strait Point, Juneau, and Tracy Arm Fjord, and a stop in Victoria, Canada on the way back to Seattle. Inside cabin start at $849 per person, balcony from $1289 per person. The MSC Poesia going to Alaska. Why not join us? I promise you we'll have a great time. Just call me, 434-258-9264, and we'll cruise with Chillie to Alaska.
All right, that puts an end to the news portion. Let's go see who's fussing at me in the chat room and who's with us this morning, since it's at a different time. There's Bonnie. I knew Bonnie was here. Okay, I'd ask about the audio. Bonnie says, I can hear you. Todd says, see you and hear you. Gretchen, me too. Hi, guys. There's Elizabeth. Elizabeth on location. Buena Diaz from Playa del Carmen. I'm back, and we hear you. Thank you, Elizabeth. Eli. Bob's with us. Have a great day. Have fun, Chillie. Your trip, oh, absolutely. Elizabeth says, love Ibiza. We did overnights there on Virgin, and we had a shuttle take us into town free. Yeah, they're running shuttles here, but I didn't even look into the fact of whether or not it was accessible. Yeah, I just went out exploring a little bit and tried to find an accessible cab because I'm trying to build a black book of accessible transportation at any port. That's what I would like eventually to come up with. So, by the way, folks, if you know of a wheelchair accessible taxi, bus, van, any of those things in any place, give me a name and a phone number. I'll be happy to put them in the reference file and refer people to them. There's Katie. Katie says, good morning, everyone. Oh, there's Roger, too. Board Celebrity Equinox, 50 hours. I hope you'll enjoy Celebrity, Roger. I've not been on Equinox, so I can't give you any advice, but Celebrity seems to be a step above most of the main lines. So it'll be interesting to see what you think about it. There's Cindy Lee. Hi, Cindy. Todd's with us. Says, good morning, everybody. I always have my own hand sanitizer with me, but I use every hand washing station on the Bliss too. Yeah, it was, from what I understand, it was still all over the Epic, the sanitizer. But I understand now that they've taken it off of Bliss. It was still on, I don't want to tell you the wrong ships. Hot Air Tom was looking into it, and there were 3 or 4 ships that still had sanitizer, but the majority of them system-wide have removed it. So this is a corporate decision to pull hand sanitizer, to me, at the most improbable time, especially, with them cutting out the inspections, CDC inspections. That was one thing that kept it, to me, my feelings, not necessarily the cruise lines, my feelings was that one of the reasons that I've always felt safe on a cruise ship, because I knew they had to pass that inspection, and I knew that wasn't, you got inspected good by the CDC. Cindy says, I'll be in Ibiza in November. Glad to hear there's a free shuttle. Well, I don't know if that was on Virgin, Cindy. That I think the shuttle was €7 and round trip €14 or something like that. It wasn't much, but I rolled, I want to say, about a mile toward town, maybe a little further, and it just, there wasn't anything. So I got to the next resort down, and I said, no, that's, there's nothing that I could see up ahead. So it was a good little bit further to actually get into the town itself. Ibiza's an actual island in the Mediterranean, of course, belonged to Spain. I would have liked to gone into town, but again, I didn't even check on the shuttle to see if there was accessibility, because I'm kind of getting tired of getting the door slammed in my face, and I knew come hell or high water I was doing this show today. So All right, there's Emily. Hi, Emily. You're up with us early. That's very nice. Jimmy Bradley says, hi, everyone. I hope you and Hot Air Tom have a great cruise. Well, we always do. And we've had crappy weather for months, but today was gorgeous. It was a beautiful sunny day. It's starting to get a little hazy, but it was chilly. It was upper 50s, maybe 60s ish. It sure didn't get up in the upper 60s. So, I had my sweatshirt on and I was comfortable with, and of course, I've got a long sleeve shirt on with this in my sweatshirt. I didn't wear a hat, didn't have to, it wasn't windy or anything. It was a pretty day, but just a little cool. If you're in the shade very long, you could feel it. But the sun was very encouraging. So, and Joanne's with us. She says, hello, everybody. Hi, Joanne. There is Flora Morales. Flora Morales says, hi, how are you? It's one of our ex-folks. Elizabeth says, Cindy Lee, the free shuttle was paid for by the cruise line. So that will depend on the company you are cruising with. Okay. Flora says, how y'all doing? There's Steve out in Kentucky. Hey, Steve. Says, hey to everyone. Thanks, Elizabeth. I'll be on MSC Grandiosa. Awesome. It's good to see you again, Chillie. Yes, I know. It's so difficult for me. I don't have any problems with my time here, but I'm constantly, like I'll try to dial John and it's 5 o'clock in the morning. And I'm thinking, holy crap, it's 6-hour difference. So, and then by the time it's time that I could call people, I'm in bed. It's just awful. I've never felt the time that like I have on this quarter that I'm spending so much time in Europe. So, strange sensation for me. Eli says, hit the like button, everyone. Thank you, Eli, as always. Love you, darling. Bonnie says, I keep my carry-on suitcase on my feet. I keep my carry-on suitcase on my feet. Not the best or safest or most comfortable, but my carry-on bag has my meds, my electronics. You could ask NCL for wheelchair assistance to help you with your bag. Yeah. Well, one of the things, Bonnie, and I don't mean to be disagreeing with you, one of the things that is liberating for me is that I don't have to depend on their wheelchair assistance. And that's been freeing. A lot of people will look at, that I've deteriorated to the point that I'm in a wheelchair. Well, and anybody can look at that, fine. But I'll look at the bright side of things. I'll look at the things that I can do now that I couldn't do before. Even with the scooters, I can do a lot more in the chair. There's things that the scooter had that the chair can have. And the one main thing, Bonnie, is that damn front basket. I used to use the hell out of that. That's where my computer went. That's where, I could put a drink in there. That's where everything went. So, and there's in the chair, the way they're built, there's not a place to put that kind of situation. I hang a bag off the side, but I can't put anything with any weight to it like a computer because it bangs off the wheels, and it can stretch down and drag on the ground. So that's not the best thing. I'll put my phone in it, my selfie stick. But if I put much more than that in there, it causes problems. So I take the chance. And yes, I realize it's a chance, Bonnie. But rarely does it ever sting me. And yesterday it stung me. I had to get my stuff till 7:30. And yes, my beds are in the same bag. Again, I try. Well, yesterday I was flying. So I didn't want to have my little carry-on bag here. I had to use that for the battery. I have to take the battery out of the chair, and I got to be able to transport the battery back to the seat, and that means when I'm walking, and I don't do very well. So anyway, it is what it is, Bonnie. There's Sonny in Mississippi. Says hello on a Thursday. Yeah, and I have no idea what days I'm going to continue doing the shows. I'll try to be back on regular schedule tomorrow. And then who knows what's going to happen Saturday and Sunday. And then that's going to get us into the first of the week, and it's craziness, So we're doing, there's only one sea day on this whole 9-day cruise. So, and we're doing an overnight. Where are we doing the overnight? I don't remember. I don't think it's in Rome. Maybe it's in Florence. Anyway, one night we're doing an overnight. So might have a chance to do something there if I could get transportation. Cindy says the whole fiasco is really going to negatively impact travel to the U.S. I completely agree. I think and again, this is not a political statement, folks. I'm looking at travel industry. Nothing about this is helping us, helping the U.S., U.S. travelers, U.S. cruisers. I'm even feeling it from some of the port people from making snide comments and things about Americans and about Trump and his tariffs. And maybe I'm not smart enough to understand the wisdom of what he's doing, but I sure don't. Let's just leave it at that. Jamin Watson says hello. Headed to California Tuesday to go to Disneyland. All right. And cruise the Mexican Riviera on the Radiance. I've not been on Radiance since she changed over. My 4-year-old daughter is excited. I bet she is. I think that's awesome. Looking forward to following you on that. Katie says, did you get off the ship? What did you do? Yes, I did, Katie. I rolled around for about an hour and a half. Went both ways. Unfortunately, not far enough to get into things. So Ibiza is, and it's one of the nicest terminals I've been in. But there's just nothing around it except the tour stuff. And I talked to several of the tour operators. Hey, do you have wheelchair accessible to? No. The cab drivers. I talked to a bunch of cab drivers. Oh yeah, we can take you where you want to go. I said, okay. Do you have a ramp or a lift? Oh, no. You'll get in the car and we'll put it in the trunk. I said, no, I know you won't. That ain't going to happen. So I couldn't find a wheelchair accessible transportation here. Hey, the captain was out on the sidewalk. I talked to him for a few minutes. And I said, ask him about it. I said, Captain, is there any wheelchair accessible transportation? He says, some of our shuttles are accessible. I said, okay, well, that's good to know. Some of. So I didn't want to tell him that I asked the excursion desk in the 9 days on this cruise if there's any wheelchair accessible excursions. And after 15 minutes, the guy says, nope. So I'm used to that too. And unfortunately, it's not necessarily the case. I'm finding that there are available, but not necessarily offered by the cruise lines. The cruise lines are really slow in taking on wheelchair accessible excursions. So don't get shut out because of that, folks. That Cunard issue is suspect. Yeah, I thought so too. I wasn't real sure about that because of the stitching on a passport. What the hell? I do believe that the people got sent home, that they weren't allowed on the ship. Stitching on. I've seen passports that are pretty ratty, and they had been through, several places on this travel to get to Australia. I agree with you. That one's funky. I'm not sure the whole story came out on, but I confirmed it. I had 3 different sources confirming that story before I used it. Trusted sources, not just jacklegs. If I make it on my Coral Princess cruise, I'll be with someone who has a guide dog, Jinx. Oh, that's cool. I'm hoping to get a pet, Jinx, and meet Carl and her husband. Cool. That'd be great, Bonnie. In Le Havre, the shuttle was €7, and they did have a wooden ramp for wheelchair users. Nice. Emily says that's crazy to pull hand sanitizer. I think so too. And I will say, Tom went on, and that's one of Tom's issues that he talks about on a regular basis, and I don't blame him. It's a perfectly valid issue on people with their practices of washing their hands. And I'm the first one to admit I'm not the best at that myself. But, it's a little more difficult for me sometimes. But I mean, Tom really went off on that poor lady. She had nothing to do with it, and she couldn't do anything about it. So, but we'll keep. I should have brought that up with the captain today, but I wasn't thinking about it when I was out there. We'll keep harping at this. We're going to spread the word on it. That's not a very encouraging sign from Norwegian. Scoot Around gave me an upgraded scooter for my May cruise. The basket is under the seat. Wow. That's kind of like my chair. I have a basket under there, only I can't to get into the basket, I've got to stand up and bend over. I can't put my phone in the basket and have the selfie stick sticking up between my legs so I can pull it out. So, like I put a sweatshirt in it today because I thought it might be nice. It was bright and sunny coming in the double picture window we have in this room. And I had to pull this sweatshirt out from the side so I could put it on to go outside. But yeah. Well, I'm glad you got a good scooter for your next one. That's great. All right, guys, that's going to wrap it up for today. Again, 10 o'clock for the rest of this cruise. We'll be doing shows at 10 a.m. Not necessarily every day, but tomorrow, 10 a.m. Monday, 10 a.m. And then we'll see what the schedule's like next week. So, all right, guys, that's going to wrap me up today. As always, thanks for being here. Don't forget to smash that thumbs up button. That'll help us out a lot. And as always, stay safe, stay healthy, think about cruising, and hopefully one day soon we'll all get together on the high seas like a bunch of us have this year already. All right, guys, we'll see you next time.
I regularly post videos on all facets of the travel and cruise industry. So if you like to keep up with the latest in cruise ships, ports of call, cruises themselves, Chillie chats, and travel and cruise industry news, just hit the little subscribe button in the lower right-hand corner, hit the bell notification so you'll be notified when a new video is up or we go live. This video was produced by Chillie's Cruises.